In today's episode 6, we have the rare opportunity to exchange meaningful, true-to-life insights with an old and dear friend of mine. These insights are exemplary and are meant to help you on your own learning journey. Today's guest is both trainer like me and learner like you, and we do, on many fronts, share a very similar view. The whole gamut of his experience with the formal aspects of education, or training as you like, with coaching, stage performance, travel, and dance with the language, as I like to say, has interesting little lessons that we all can learn from. We talk freely about things like self-education, free time activities, art, culture, improvisation, and coming to terms with notions of imperfection, to name a few. And I'd like to start this episode by putting the following question to you. What sense is there in stressing ourselves too much with the rules, if the highest art, perhaps, lies in eventually learning to break them? And for my German listeners, welchem Sinn hat es, sich zu sehr auf die Regeln zu konzentrieren, wenn die höchste Kunst darin besteht, vielleicht, sie schließlich zu brechen?
Herzlich willkommen zum English Coach Podcast, präsentiert von trainingtree.de, die personalisierte Lösung im Bereich Erwachsenenbildung. Und jetzt dein Gastgeber. Er sagt zwar immer ich und dich, ansonsten ist sein Deutsch fantastisch. iAntonio Patterson.
The English Coach Podcast is still an English podcast. It hopes to add a splash of color and life to your learning experience. In this space, we give ourselves permission to relax a little and live the language. Again, for my German learners, lernen mal anders. Now, our esteemed guest was kind enough to share a bit of his time with us, albeit remotely. The interview was pre-recorded via Skype, so I do apologize for any slight difference you might notice. The value that we both hope to convey to you today comes in many forms. By the end of this episode, you will have been presented with a rich palette of true-to-life insight from which you can pick and choose. We talk about 1. The ability to live the international character of a job role, supported in many ways by sometimes unconventional use of language. 2. We'll discuss the need for language, the most international of which by any measure and in almost any field of work is still English. 3. Successful attempts to share knowledge locally and in person, internationally and remotely, not only in English, but in other languages too. We talk about learning from mistakes and about attitudes and approaches that work. And lastly, one of my favorite topics, improvising, supplementing your communication efforts by mixing words with actions, and learning the rules while being ever mindful of the fact that your ultimate goal, perhaps, is to be able to break them. Pedagogical methodology dictates that at this point, I at least invite the learners among us to listen, and listen again if you must, for how I use the following words in the upcoming interview. Try to understand from context. The words are come to mind, privy to, on the road, self-education, exemplary, splendiferous, gamut, intend, and accomplished. So let me cordially welcome you, without further ado, to this, the first of 3 parts of our interview with the accomplished trainer, coach, master of dance, science, and stage performance extraordinaire, Saeed El Amir.
All right. Well, Saeed, it is fantastic to finally have you here. Not exactly in studio, but Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, not
Yes.
almost. Well, in many ways, you are here in the spirit.
Oh, cool.
And I can feel you and see your fantastic photograph as we speak.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yes. You're most welcome. All right. I'm very excited that you are here. And I would like to just quickly introduce you a little bit
I'm
for our
curious.
listeners. And please do correct me if I say anything wrong here. But, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Saeed, Estoda and Jam Dance. These are the first things that actually come to mind. Now, Estoda, for those of us who don't know, stands for Essential Technique of Oriental Dance, and Jam Dance covers jazz, oriental, and modern, and delivers training and development in the direction of stage dance, stage technique, feel for the music, dynamic, and authenticity. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I couldn't say it better.
All right.
That's
Great.
really cool. Yeah.
Nice. Well, there's actually more in your introduction. Now, more recently, of course, there is a new and interesting offer, which is being made now more specifically for teachers of dance. I will ask you, or I will invite you to elaborate on that a little later.
Yes.
But I'd like to still, give a kind of background of who you are for our listeners. Now, you have an impressive background in multiple genres and have received qualifications in your field. Now, the ones that I've had, well, let's say I was privy to. Yes.
Okay.
Your certificate in advanced studies in dance science and as a health and performance, certificate in advanced studies in dance, motor learning, and training. This
Correct.
was, I think, the University of Bern. And all of this led up to the most recent Master of Science in Dance Science from the University of Wolverhampton in the UK.
Yeah, correct. The Master of Dance Science is correct in Wolverhampton, and the Master of Advanced Studies was made up out of these 3 certificates which you mentioned. So actually we have 2 master's programs.
Okay.
That's a little bit different because the 3 certificates you mentioned were not leading directly to the Masters of Science. So actually, 2 programs. Yes. I have to admit, yes, it was a little bit of work.
That's nice. I mean, we're as a trainer, and a master trainer, instructor, coach, source of knowledge. Yes, I mean, we have to have something to show, for, the methodology that informs our practice. And I mean, no knowledge is wasted. So, more power to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
More power to you. I mean,
and to my students.
Naturally. Naturally, of course. All right. Well, introducing you still continues because
wow.
what I have here, again, if my memory serves me correctly, you have worked as a master instructor and performer all over the world, in Europe, North and South America, Chicago and Buenos Aires to be exact, also in Egypt, Russia and China.
Yeah, true.
That is great.
Yeah, it was. But it's a little bit of normality, if I can say that, because as a dancer and an instructor, you need to travel. You are forced to travel, and for me, it's quite normal to be on the road. Let's say it that way.
Thanks for correcting me by saying, well, it's kind of the norm, as a person of authority in the field of dance. It's normal to travel to all these places. But, for me, it's not exactly normal. It's just fantastic. And I'm very excited to see this. Yeah. It's nothing normal for me.
It is normal in a way. If you want to share your knowledge, you can't stay at one place because people won't travel to you. So you have to travel in a way. If you want to become famous, or not only famous, but especially if you want to share your knowledge with a lot of people, you need to travel.
I also saw that you produced and co-produced some training DVDs.
That's correct.
That correct? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Especially my own ones. Yes. And for some, I was kind of I'm a supervisor, more a supervisor than.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't know. I find it great. I mean, together with the traveling, the immense background in dance, and the sharing of knowledge as a trainer, a master trainer, and coach of dance, all of these things I find really impressive. And it's nice that you can package these somehow, in such a way that you can give these to your learners so they can also benefit from it. The training DVDs, though, I find them really interesting because I'm also thinking a little bit in that direction. Maybe not DVDs, which I'm sure are still available for
absolutely
for purchase.
I
definitely put a link to that in the show notes, so people can find these training DVDs.
Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. It's the least I can do, and I find it interesting because I'm also thinking of trying out that model and getting people to be able to enjoy or take part in training activities in the quiet of their home and whatever time they want. It's just a great model, I think.
Yes, I totally agree with this because when I travel around and people always ask me, how can I train at home? How can I have you, Saeed, with me in my home? And I said, well, I can't divide myself into a million pieces to be with you. So I have to find a solution for this. And that's why I produced these DVDs. So people can have me whenever they want to, and they can see the technique I'm using. And so it's a little bit of being there without being there.
Yes. Well, almost the same way we are being here right now.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, in a way.
Yes. The logistics of it, though, we don't want to get too much into the technicalities, but the logistics of it make it really difficult to arrange that sometimes. I'm a little curious as to how exactly was that done. Is in studio, of course, you have it's recorded. How was it done?
Yeah, a little bit different for each DVD because I was learning by doing, if you want to. It was the first one was my DVD Get Ready to Dance Volume 1, which was very let's say amateur-like. It was recorded from the back into the mirror, just one camera, and it was a beginning, let's say it that way. And I tried to elaborate that a little bit more with the following ones, and the final one was actually with recorded with 3 cameras and in a real studio setting, and with giving the voice over afterwards in English and in German. So that was much better and much more professional.
Yes, that's very important. I have the greatest respect for the language aspect, which it speaks a little more to what I do. The whole translation and making it available for all your potentials. Yes, it's not so easy, especially the special language that you might have, let's say in one genre might be Arabic, and you have to translate it to German and then to English, and who knows what gets lost. It's so good that you have the dance activity to show exactly what you mean in addition,
yes,
to the translation.
The good thing is that I do not have to translate from Arabic, from Arabic language into dance language, due to the fact that that the dance language actually is French.
Aha.
The ballet language is French. So you have a plié and a tendu and whatever all over the world. You just have to be able to find out what they mean with plié, 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 plié. You know, everybody's pronouncing this a little bit different. So with doing it and saying the word, it's pretty easy to get. And I speak French fluently, so that was no question and no doubt to do that. And gave me the chance to translate it into dance language and into English, which is still a little bit different. When you travel around, you have to deal with different knowledges about English.
Yes, different levels of competence and all
absolutely.
of that. You know, it's this is just so interesting to me because I mean from what you said about ballet, you know, being the language of dance and French being the language of love. No, you didn't say that. But it's good to know that you have also another language. We can talk about that experience later. But the whole idea of being able to communicate meaning with dance, let's say if you have to explain something, you know, and the words don't do, then you can move to it. That is one of the aspects of dance that spoke to me in the first instance, right? I always say I want my, you know, as a language coach now, not as a trainer. As a coach, I take a more relaxed approach to the learning experience, the adult learning experience. And I want my learners to give themselves permission to dance with the language. It brings improvisation into play. And dance, not exactly that they're gonna dance a grammar rule. I mean, I've done that too. Yes, that's another show coming up. Yes, it's coming up. Yes, with mime, but I'm not saying anymore. It's a surprise. The ability to communicate your meaning using the tools at hand. It's just great that you've touched on that point.
But you know, when you start teaching. I was about 18. I mean, my English was good, but not perfect. And I was not the star in English, but in dance at least. So I started speaking like I felt it could be right. And people understood me. So that's the most important thing. I think if you want to get in touch with people, you need to dare to speak, no matter how correct it is. People will correct you if they do not understand you or will ask. So it's like in dance. I like this comparison. Because in dance, you need to move. If you want to dance, you need to move. And it doesn't make sense to wait until you have all these rules and you understand all these rules. You need to practice it. However, move your body in order to get better. So move your tongue in order to get better in languages.
Of course. I mean, the connection is quite clear. You know, I am so excited about this. Sometimes I get lost in my own passion, and I have to think, how am I gonna really explain this such that my listeners get a value from it? I mean, what we're both saying, and please correct me if I'm wrong. However, you really do, again, to use my own words, you have to give yourself permission to do something. Give yourself permission to try something out.
Yeah, be brave.
To improvise. Yes, exactly. And especially if you're, for example, you offer your training DVD, very important. You can do that in the freedom, or let's say in a safe space, right? That allows your clients, your adult learner, to try things out in a safe space and benefit.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, you know, I have to push a little bit more, you know, where I have to say, well, you know, people don't worry about so much about errors. Just try it. This is not so regimental where you have to worry about it. Just try it out. That's what I want to push all the time.
In dance, we say first learn the rules, then break them.
Yes, of course. In photography too.
Oh, really? Okay, so this seems to be something general. I would say it's not only first learn the rules. For me, it would be better to say, while you are learning the rules, learn to break them.
Okay, so the breaking starts in the learning, you would say?
Yeah, I would say it starts in the learning, because how much sense does it make that you have some rules which you can't use in that moment? So again, this improvisation part, you need to know the rules in order to fall back on that, but you need to be flexible enough to break these rules in order to advance.
So then, let me take a moment to extend a token of gratitude to our guest for today, man of action, master educator and practitioner in the fabulous field of dance, and proficient user of English as a second language, Saeed El Amir. This is a big ticket, a lot of good stuff, and for that reason, the interview had to be split into 3 parts, the first of which you got to enjoy today. Give yourself a little time to digest what was said, and be sure to check out the following 2 parts. It gets even more interesting. The theme is the same, English for work, the lived experience. However, the levels of achievement that this man has realized for himself and his learners the world over are also achievable to you. Over the following 2 parts of this interview, we talk more about how. With a small win is always a good way to begin. Okay then, we've come to the end of this episode of the English Coach Podcast. So like it if you like it, and if you don't, lie to me. But still, feel free to share it with a friend, post a rating, or better yet, write a comment. This will help it to help you as it is intended to do. Check out the show notes at www.trainingtree.de/podcast or at englishcoachpodcast.com. Subscribe only if you feel like, so you know when there's a new episode available. And be sure, by all means, to check out Saeed's website, www.jomdance.com. Thanks for listening, looking forward to hearing from you, and bye for now.